Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Cooper. I'm here for your everyday math lesson today. It's lesson 4-1, and it's on measuring to the nearest inch and half an inch. And hopefully you've come and picked up your bag from me. And if you have in your bag, you should have a ruler that looks like this. Some are pink, some are yellow, some are green, some are orange. But if you notice on one side, it goes from 1 to 12, which is in inches. And then if you flip the ruler over on the other side, it goes from 1 to 30, which is in centimeters. Today, we are going to really focus on measuring to the nearest inch or half an inch. And we're going to be working on the standard 3M2, which has to do with estimating and measuring lengths eventually to the nearest quarter inch. But we're going to start with a refresher on the nearest inch and half an inch. So, on the screen in front of you, you will see what looks like a ruler. For this purpose, the line only goes from 0 all the way to 8. And so I wanted to just review some things with you. If you notice, we start at 0, and again, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are our whole numbers that we have. Then, if you look at the whole number 0 and go from 0 to 1, you will notice that in between here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. And so our inch, we have broken into fourths. And we're going to really focus today on the red dashes. If you notice, if we have 0 here and 1 down here, the red dash is right in between. So we know that if we have a whole number and we split it into 2 equal parts, that each one of those parts would be half of the whole. So if I was going to label this square, if something measured to this red line, we would say that it is a half an inch. So I've labeled that half. Then we're going to look at the next one. Here's our whole number 1 and the whole number 2. This red line, again, or this red tick mark, is right in between 1 and 2. So if I was going to label it, I would put 1 and a half. So if I had an object that was from 0 to this red line, we would say that it is 1.5 inches long. And we're going to practice that in just a few minutes. So again, we're going to look at the next box. You will notice, again, it's between the 2 and the 3. So we would label that with 2.5. Whoops. I got a little trigger happy there. There we go. And the next one is in between the 3 and the 4. So if we were going to label that, we would say 3.5. And I'll give you time to think about this next one. Again, it's in between the whole number 4 and the whole number 5. Here's 1/2 of the inch, and here's the other half of the inch. So we would say that it is 4.5. And the next one is in between 5 and 6. So if it's longer than 5 inches, but not 6 inches, and it's close to this halfway mark, we would say that it is 5.5 inches. And the next one again is past the 6, not to the 7. It's halfway, so 6.5. And one more. I'll give you just a second to think about that one. Hopefully you got 7.5. So that's kind of how our ruler is labeled. Later on, we will talk about these other little marks. If you have, I said at the beginning that this line from 0 to 1 is broken into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So if this is a half, this is going to be 1/4. And a half can also be labeled 2/4. So it would be 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. And we will learn later that 4/4 means that we have a whole piece. So that's for another lesson, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. So we're going to do a little bit of practice. I'm going to draw some lines now, and we're going to talk about how long that line is. So I'm going to start out with a blue line here. And when you're measuring an object, it's super important that you put whatever the object is on the 0 and line it up right with the 0, the edge of the object with the 0, so you can get the most accurate measurement. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to make a blue line. And we're going to start out kind of easy. I'm going to make this super easy. All right, there's our first line. And if you notice, we will again look at the 0 and then we will go to the end of the object to find out how long it is. We notice that it's already past the 2, so it's longer than 2 inches. It's even past this 2.5 mark, so it's not 2.5 inches. It is super close to 3. It's a little bit past 3, but it's definitely closer to 3 than it is 3.5. So if I was going to label that, I would type 3.5 inches, or you can say 3.5. And you can put IN and a period, which is the abbreviation for inches. So there's our first one. I'm going to put the words in red so we can see them a little bit better. All right, so there's our first measurement. Now we're going to do another line. So I'm going to switch colors. This time we're going to use red. And I'm going to go up here a little bit farther so we can see it a little better. And I'm going to make this one, I think we're going to go about right there. All right. So again, we notice we have lined up the end of my object with the 0. Again, that's super important because that's what makes measurement so accurate. If you would have your line back here somewhere and it wasn't lined up with the 0, you wouldn't be giving a true measurement. So we look, our line is past the 1, it's past the 2, past the 3. Is it past the 4? I hope you said yes. And if we look, it is all the way at 4.5 inches. It's even a little bit farther than that, but it's not quite to 5. And if we said we were going to measure to the nearest 1/2 inch, it's closest to 4.5. So we're going to label that and we're going to say 4.5 inches, or again, you can say 4.5 IN, which stands for inches. And this time, let's again we'll leave it in, let's do green this time. So now we have 4.5 inches. And you can see that it lines up with that. All right, we're going to try another one. This time, let's do a green line. And I'm going to go up here. And I'm going to see if I can trick anybody today. I'm going to go about right there. Okay, again, if you were asked to measure to the nearest 1/2 inch, I would want you to look at that green line. Again, it's definitely past 0, this green line. If we went all the way across, here's our line for 5, it's past 5. Here's the line for 6, it's past 6. Here is where 6.5 would be. Now, is it closer to 6.5 or is it closer to 6? I want you to think for just a minute. I think if I looked at it, I think it's closer to 6 than it is over here to 6.5. You can see I have to go a little bit farther. And we can even, let's change colors and I'll add a little bit to this line to get it to the 1/2, right? So it's about to right there. If you notice, this green section of it is closer to this line, then this yellow is a little bit longer before we get to the 1/2. So in order to put the measurement for that, even though it says to measure to the nearest 1/2 inch, that doesn't mean you put the 6.5. It's actually closer to 6. So you're going to put, it is 6 inches long, or you can say 6 IN. And let's put that in red or blue. All right, so again, now we have measured that line. We're going to try just one more. And this time, let's make a black line. And I'm going to come back down here, and I'm going to make my line go across. I'm going to make it go super far. All right, so there's our black line. I want you to look at that black line and think about what measurement you would type or write in. Is it closer to 7? Is it closer to 7.5? I'm going to look and talk you through it. Here is our 7 mark. It's definitely past 7, right? And here is our 7.5 mark. Is it closer to the half or is it closer to the 7? Again, we can change colors of markers just for the purpose of seeing it a little bit. There's where it would be to get to a half. And if you see, here's the distance it is from the 7 to where the line stops. And it just needs this part to here to get to 7.5. So I would say it's closest to 7.5. So I would put 7.5 inches, or you can put 7.5 IN period. And we'll label that with red. So there you have it. Today, you're going to be able to practice in your green folders. You should have a paper labeled from your math journals that is 4-1, where you get to practice measuring some lines. And you may also, there's a home link where you can measure and use, I believe, paper rulers that are with that if you want to. If not, you have this ruler that I gave you. That's the one I would suggest using. You can also do a little bit more practice if you go to your Canvas homepage and click on Math Manipulatives. You can click on this right here that kind of looks like a number line, which is what it is, but I used it as my ruler today. You can click on your number line, and this will pop up. You're going to want to leave it at whole numbers. You can space them apart so they're really close together. They're kind of close together. I had mine on the wide setting today, but you can choose how far apart you want them and then say done. Then you can practice making lines. To make lines, you click on this white drawing tool at the bottom. You want to make sure that this pencil right here is facing down, and then pick your color. So I picked red first, and make sure your object starts on the 0. You can draw a line. And then you would look at this line and say, well, it's in between the 6 and the 7. So I know it's not 7 inches long. It could be 6 inches long, but it's kind of in between right here, the half. So to label, you click this T, which stands for text. And you're going to label it, and you're going to say 6.5 inches or 6.5 IN. Then you can just click done. You can have some fun practicing that way. Again, you can change colors by changing this circle. And you can, again, make sure your object is on, whoops, I forgot to put my pencil so it's pointing down. Make sure it's starting on the 0. And again, you can do this. There's our line. You'll look. Is it closest to 9? Is it closest to 10? Or is it halfway in between at 9.5? I'm going to say that it's closest to 9 this time. So I am going to click my text box and type 9.5 inches. Or I'm sorry, it's just 9 inches. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be available on Zoom, and have a great day.